I first wanted to welcome you guys to Bronco Day Online. I really wish we could be doing this in person. This puts, it makes a lot of us introverts or extroverts even a little nervous being all online. So we apologize and wish that we could be at Boise State together, but we will manage with what we have, and we want this to be an interactive session, and we want you guys to feel free to ask us any questions, and feel free to raise your hand or interrupt or let me know whenever you have a question, okay? Or if I'm going too fast, you're not going to hurt my feelings, so please let me know. Thank you. All right, so today we're going to be talking about our mechanical and biomedical engineering program. I am Yvette Barrios. I'm the Mechanical and Biomedical Engineering Department Manager, and I also have Lynn Olson, who is our Mechanical and Biomedical Engineering Undergraduate Advisor. And as I mentioned,
sorry.
No worries, Lynn, sorry about that. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got a couple of the professors, if you guys want to quickly just say hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, this is Don. Good to see you guys.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so quick little introduction, a little bit about myself. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, we also have Lynn Olson, who's the advisor. Lynn is also an engineer. She was a practicing civil engineer for 13 years. And Lynn has been at Boise State for just over 9 years. Okay, so why should you get a mechanical engineering degree, and why should you get it from Boise State? So just by a show of hands, how many of you know exactly what you want to major in? If you guys go to the chat window and you look, oh, awesome, thank you. See, Bennett, thank you. Anybody else? Can you guys raise your hand in the chat window or maybe on your image if you want? And if you don't know, that's okay. I just want to let you know, there is a lot of engineering disciplines out there. Let me put my pointer back on. There's lots of engineering disciplines. It can be confusing. It could be a little bit overwhelming, and you know, you don't need to make a decision yet, but let me tell you why being a mechanical engineer is the most beneficial engineering degree out there. But before I do, I wanted to kind of let you guys know, I want everybody to forget about the past, because when you come to Boise State, I want you to be better than your past. I want you to be different. I want you to be curious. I mean, you can completely be a new person when you go to college. Come in with, ask questions, be curious about anything, break things. It's okay to fail. It's okay to, don't be afraid of failure. And if you do fail fast, get up and try again. And I guarantee you that the sense of community here at Boise State, we would be willing to help you and make you successful in anything. Feel free to go out there and ask questions, and feel free to come back and contact us. With that being said, it goes into, do you know why a mechanical engineer, why it's called mechanical and biomedical engineering? Anybody? Because in reality, we really don't have, there's no real jobs out there that say, we can't be professional problem solvers. It's not a real job description. Mechanical engineer, yes. Oh, I see the slides are delayed, sorry. I'm sorry, but what slides are you guys seeing? Because what I'm seeing on my screen versus what I'm seeing on my other screen look different.
The professional problem solver.
Okay. So what we want to do is hi folks, sorry about that. Decided to drop off. Internet decides to play nice games on me, so my apologies. So as I was stating, I don't know how long I was talking to myself, but in the reality of things, a mechanical engineer is essentially the foundations for becoming a professional problem solver. There is no unique problems today that you guys will be able to solve tomorrow. You will solve something completely different. So what we want to do in mechanical engineering is provide you the foundations to go solve those problems. I like to think that mechanical engineering is the Be Anything campaign. Can you guys hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay. Is my Be Anything campaign. Being a mechanical engineer, you can be so many different things. You can be an entrepreneur, you can go into the medical field. We've had several graduates that
You're cutting in and out, Yvette.
Mhm.
Are you still there, Yvette? Oh, I think I should have had a backup plan here with the slides so I could have presented. Oh, you're back.
I was
Yeah, I'm
gonna
back.
say,
I'm sorry.
maybe we should just start jumping in when Yvette pops out, you know, and
Uh,
speaks so she
I
comes
went-
back and takes over.
I went onto my cellular service, so I ditched the internet. So my apologies, everyone. So
Next time, I'm just gonna jump in and start riffing. You know, I think I think I see where you're going.
Thanks, Gus. I appreciate it. So this is kind of, I'm not sure when I dropped off. My apologies again. This is my Be Anything campaign. A mechanical engineer isn't just working on cars anymore or going into locomotives. You can do anything. You could go into aerospace. You can go into materials. You can become an analyst, or you can, and the analyst, all these fields kind of expand into something different. You can go into an analyst and do stress analysis on airplane jets, or you can go into renewable, sustainable energy. And you can even go become a teacher if you wanted to. But you know, the thing about a mechanical engineer, you can always go from mechanical engineering down to a teacher, take a few classes, and then get a certificate to become either a professor in college, or you can go and become a teacher in high school of some sort. But a teacher, if you go and you get your teaching degree, you are only a teacher. You would have to go back to school and get a completely new curriculum to become a mechanical engineer. The mechanical engineer can kind of go in so many different fields, robotics, you name it. Why is this important? Because technology is changing so rapidly that 70% of the jobs that you're going to get eventually haven't even been invented yet. So if you're sitting there worried, like you don't know what to do when you want to grow up, don't worry about it, because by the time you guys graduate, the landscape's going to be completely different. Is there any questions so far? All right. Okay, so I want to talk. Oh, go ahead, Lynn.
I was just saying it's quiet on the chat. So if people do have questions, go ahead and feel free to chat as well, and we can address those at the end.
Okay, sounds great. So let's go more into our curriculum. This is an interesting slide because if you think about the rate of the last 2,500 years compared to the next 100 years, we're going to have the same amount of change from the past 2,500 years over the next 100 years. So think about this. When I was 18, which I'm not very old, Google wasn't even invented. There was no iPhones. Laptops existed, but were extremely expensive. So you think back and you think about a curriculum it's the core courses and the way a program is running is educating you. So you would ask yourself, why are most universities still teaching mechanical engineering the same way they were teaching 40 years ago? Even when I took it, when I was an engineer 20 years ago, it was still taught the same way. Why, if technology is changing so rapidly, why are universities still teaching the same way? So we didn't understand that either. So thankfully, Don Plumley had a vision 5 years ago and decided to start questioning. He met with current students, he met with industry leaders, alumni, the advisory board, other institutions. And just to let you know, institutions like MIT, Texas A&M, and even Ohio State have also changed the curriculum, in the same aspect that we're trying to change. There was numerous case studies out there. So then we decided that we were going to have two strategic paths going forward. We were going to change our curriculum, which we called our Modernize Curriculum. And then we were also going to increase the space called our Innovation Studio. And I'll go more into that here in a second. So our Modernized Curriculum, what does that mean exactly? Well, Yvette, what are you changing? Well, a lot of students, when I was in industry, especially an engineering manager, and I'd go to these career fairs, students would come to me and say, I'm just an engineering student, but I don't have any experience. And they would put on their resume that they were a mechanical engineer and they took thermal, statics, all the mechanical engineering class. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. That's no different than the 100 other students out there. What makes you different? And in order to make somebody unique and different, we need to allow you guys, the students, to go and get that experience to make yourself stand out. So the curriculum has been changed to offer experimental learning, design thinking, and it's flexible to allow to you guys to design what you guys want to specialize in. And then we also have a new, we're offering certificates. You're going to ask, what the heck are certificates? And I'll get into that here shortly. Before I do, let's go over our curriculum, our overall class. If you guys understand this right now, that's fantastic, because you guys are far better than even I am. Because even when I came on this past year, this was completely confusing. Don't worry if you don't understand it entirely. Now, what I want to highlight, everything in blue, mechanical engineering does have kind of an admissions policy. So everything in blue are classes that you need to focus on. In those core classes, this is what we think are the foundations to make you a better engineer later. So in these classes, we're asking that you maintain at least a 2.6 GPA, that you have a minimum of 3 repeats in these classes, and then you demonstrate professional and ethical behavior. Now, if you notice, when I kept talking about this experimental design classes, that's kind of the core of engineering. We put the focus on allowing you to have experimental classes, more design classes, so you get that experience, so that when you're in these classes, you can actually make a statement and say, well, I designed a robotic arm to function in an environment of 0 degrees to 200 degrees. So that shows that you know how to work electronics, you know electrical design, you know obviously the thermal effects to those electrical. And so that alone is telling an employer how valuable you are. You don't have to go and put that you took thermo and you just did this. These are all action-based activities that we're allowing you to get here at Boise State. In addition to is, as I noted, for your electives, we are not telling you what electives to take. You will have the freedom to go in and choose those. You can either choose it in a certain certificate, or you can choose from multiple certificates. It's your choice. And the last was, we finally decided to give you guys back one of your science. What if somebody is really wants to be a mechanical engineer, but they're interested in possibly in geology? They want to study some rocks. We're giving you that flexibility to make you that well-rounded individual. Certificates. What are certificates? So if you let me go back to the slide really quick. If you look at the certificate, and if you think that each one of these courses are 3 credits, when you go to your available certificates, we are allowing you to take, so most of these are all about 12 credits, with the exception of the biomed certificate. What we did with the biomedical certificate is we made it 17 credits so that it was very much the same as our biomedical minor. So you will get both a biomedical certificate and a biomedical minor at the same time. Now, why are certificates different from minors? Because you can get a certificate in far less amount of credits than you could if you took a minor. So if you wanted to design your classes so that you graduate with 2 certificates, say you were really interested in robotics, you could take your mechatronics class, and then you can take a design curriculum and get the design certificate as well. And anybody can get a certificate. Okay. Now, quick question. Does anybody see anything in common in here? What's the first thing that comes in mind when you see this picture?
And I think most people are on mute, so if you want to answer, type away. We should have some prizes here.
I know. Let's see. I see someone in the chat. Each and every single person on this photograph are all undergraduate students. And the reason this is important, because that leads into our second phase of our strategic plan, was building this innovation studio. The innovation studio, I don't want to call it a machine shop, but it's kind of like a machine shop, but it's run and managed by our undergraduate students. Most universities out there have most of them will have a machine shop of some sort. It's typical that the individual running the lab is a machinist who typically wants to do the design or the build themselves. That's not the case here at Boise State. We will ensure that you get certificates to run each one of these machines, so that you can go in and you can build you can prototype whatever design you make. You know, and the reason why is if you design something and you go to build it and you can't build it, the machinist won't be able to build it. It doesn't make you an efficient engineer. So Gus, if you can Gus, you want to touch on some of the design projects and how this is important for you guys, can you step in?
Specific to just the skills of building it and what you get as an undergraduate in there. Just, you know, I tell my students that's what makes engineers different than scientists, is that we work on some of the same principles, but rather than trying to uncover previously unknown information, we are taking what kind of is known and we're building things that have never existed. And that's something that that's really what makes an engineer different, is even the faculty members who are sort of scientists and are doing research in areas that has very immediate and specific applications. So, and that's what we're doing with the putting design into just about, I think, every year of the curriculum, is to try to get you guys to be comfortable with that hands-on side of things, to where in the new curriculum, by the time you're in senior design, you're pretty much driving yourself. You already know pretty much what goes on, and we're going to hand you a customer, and we're going to be there to guide you. But you should be ready to start applying your engineering skills before you even leave the university.
Great, thanks, Gus. Sarah and Lynn, do you guys have anything else to add?
No, I think Gus covered it pretty well. As an engineer, you are going to design things, and then we have to make them. So the more that you understand about the requirements of actually making something, the better that your design will be. So giving you a way to be able to learn those things is really important, and that's one thing that we strive to do.
Fantastic.
This is Lynn. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to add that I know students who, once they have their internship and really get that opportunity for that hands-on experience and connect with their learning in their classes, then it's just like a light bulb goes on and you can see the change in students. And so now I think with the Innovation Studio, the changes to the design curriculum, we're going to be able to provide a little bit more of that through the curriculum to prepare our students better for those internship opportunities as well.
Great.
And
So,
I would
sorry,
just,
Lynn.
as a final conclusion, I would say that one of the things that people often do is they'll think, maybe they'll learn about a mill or they'll learn about a lathe and what some of the capabilities are, and they think they'll understand that, or even 3D printing or laser cutting, and they'll think they understand those principles and capabilities, but nothing really cements an understanding and understanding what it's not as doing it.
Thank you, Lynn. So I saw a couple of hands go up. So I think Bennett, if you, oh.
I unmuted him, I think. Or let's try it again. You're probably both doing it.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep, if you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, so for me, I really love being outside and being hands-on with everything. And I guess my question is, how much in-class time and outside class time is there? Because I don't like being in the classroom, honestly. I like being outside, building things with my hands, working on wood tools, doing everything with my hands, really. Like, what's the ratio between in-class time and hands-on time?
Great question. And I saw Don Plumley's hand up. So Don, do you want to answer that?
Sure, I'll go ahead and do that. I'm not sure if I'm showing up or not, but I turned my video on. So, so in terms of in and out of the space, the innovation space, in the past, I think traditionally you go to other engineering programs, and frankly our program as well. In the past, there was, I'd say a limited amount of that. We like to have students go in there, but at some level it was an option. So part of what we're doing here with this space that you see is building it into the curriculum and such that we can have experiences in every year where the students can get in there and work. And in addition to that, we have student clubs that can come in there and do their club projects in this space. And so one of the things I wanted to emphasize, if you go to other programs, and we notice this, and we've heard other students that have been looking around at other schools, you find that they have spaces like this, but they don't always allow students to come in there as easily. You have to maybe go through a rigorous training program, and then they kind of give you you have to meet their level of standards before they allow you to come in and use it. And we have safety standards as well, but we want you to come in and we want to train you in this space. And so we're trying to make this an incredibly inviting space. We are aligning it with the curriculum so that every student that's coming in will have multiple chances to be a part of this space and participate in this space. And we want students to be there. So this is not a exclusive to certain students. This is very much the student experience that everybody's going to have, and that's one of the guiding principles that we had in our curriculum change. Bennett, does that answer your question? That may not be as specific as you wanted, but
That's good enough for me. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate your question.
Great. So Daniel Waterman, thanks, Don. I appreciate it. So Daniel Waterman just asked, undergrad research is important. So what are the opportunities that Boise State has to offer? So the great question, because it leads me right into our next slides. So how do you get involved, and how do you get involved early, such as research and clubs? So I just wanted to point out that being a former employee, just because you had a 4.0 with no involvement, no extracurricular activities, it's no longer a guarantee for a job. Myself, as an employer, I was looking for a student that was well-rounded. And here at Boise State, we can give you those opportunities. And it gets started with, it's all started in our labs. Our labs are so diverse. So if you remember our Be Anything motto our labs are very much designed into being anything model. I don't know if Erin Mannon made it in. She didn't. We don't have the baby mechanics lab up and running just yet. It is coming. She is coming over from Arkansas, and so I couldn't find a better picture, so I put a picture of herself and her baby on here. So she gets, she's lucky enough to get her picture up on the slides. But you know, we've got research as far as energy research. I know there are energy experiment or labs that are all embedded with biomedical engineering. We've got the ceramic MEMS lab. We've got smart materials lab, robotics, a computational lab. The computational lab is very interesting because he does almost a fatigue analysis at a microscopic level. And so the research capabilities goes back to the be anything. What I highly recommend is in our Bronco Day YouTube channel, a lot of the professors are highly encouraging the undergrads to go to them and ask questions. Ask if you can be a part of the lab. Typically, a lot of these roles, and one of the professors can help correct me if I'm wrong, but some students will come in, they may not have the research funding to pay that student, so they may volunteer for a semester, and then the following semester they can actually get a full-time paid research position in that lab as an undergrad. So once again, our Be Anything motto for mechanical engineering also translates into our labs. Any questions? Daniel, does this answer your question?
Hey, Yvette, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of these, we do have a lot of, like you just mentioned, a lot of variety in our research labs, and I just want to say that across the board, there is significant undergraduate involvement in these labs, and a lot of times we give these undergrads, you know, you come in and maybe you're getting involved as a freshman or a sophomore level, and that is totally something that can happen within a year of being on campus, or maybe even earlier. You can get involved in these in these labs and be there, you know, for a couple of years, and by the time you're done, we have multiple students that have the opportunity to be writing journal publications and going to conferences, which is something that normally you would see for grad students at other universities. And so we have grad students as well, but we see a lot of amazing development of our students within these undergraduate research opportunities.
Can I make a couple points to that? Oh, I thought the next slide. I was going to highlight the undergraduate research showcase that was just held on campus yesterday. And it was not just graduating seniors that were participating. There were underclassmen that were presenting their research, I believe, as part of that as well. And knowing that we have Courtney on here, I'm pretty sure Courtney was involved in undergraduate research as well. So I don't know if she has anything she'd like to add, not to put you on the spot, Courtney.
Yeah, I thought that undergraduate research was a really great opportunity for me as an undergrad. I specifically, it was really nice to kind of learn the stuff through my research and then take the classes and then see how those skills that we were learning and the problem solving actually applied to my research. So it was really interesting to kind of get involved in those classes and then be able to directly do real world applications.
Fantastic, thanks, Courtney. And for those that are unaware, Courtney is our youngest PhD at Boise State, so, or in the engineering department, but. Okay. And then the next thing I want to say is we have hundreds of clubs to get involved in. The clubs that I'm highlighting on this page are very specific to engineering. If you go down to the list in clubs organization, everything's listed except for the order of the engineer. If you're interested on how to become a member or what the qualifications are for that, please contact Lynn Olson directly. But the rest of the clubs, feel free to join in any of them. These are specific to somewhat mechanical engineering. But so obviously Society of Women Engineers has engineers from across the board, but the aerospace, the Baja Club, Mechanical Engineering Club, you name it. We want you to get involved. This is how you build the sense of community. This is where you build your family. And, you know, I'm extremely excited because as I'm looking down, I'm seeing a whole lot of professors that are joining on their Saturdays as well. They may not even have an opportunity to speak, but they're still here and they're here to answer any questions. So with that being said, the last information, I know this is an eye chart, but I want you guys to know that if you go to the Bronco Day interviews, this has interviews with every single one of those lab professors. And some of them will provide hints on how to find positions in their labs. Others just kind of give more descriptions about what each one of their labs are doing. There's a lot more information in these than what we could put on actually a written summary. So feel free to go take a look at these. Our directories here, contact any of the professors. Even if something sounds remotely interesting, send an email to the professor. I guarantee you they're going to, they will reply. Undergrad research advisor is Lynn Olson. Lynn does an amazing job with our students. We typically have about 300 undergrads, and Lynn does probably a personal plan for each and every one of these students. Wanted to end with our biomedical website. We are active on social media, but I have to admit, we're not nearly as active as our social media king, which is our very own Dr. Krishna Pakala. If you really want to know what the life of being a Bronco is, contact or please follow him on any of these boards. He's phenomenal. It's a lot of fun. He's making videos almost every day. He will tell you what it's like to live in the dorms. He's one of our live-in professors. He currently can't be here because he's got his own session on the Live and Learn community. But he's very entertaining to watch, especially around the Halloween timeframe. All right, is there any questions? And we've got plenty of the professors here to answer any questions. And if you guys are shy, feel free to just put a question in the chat board or send a message to me personally. Anything works. So we're opening this up for you guys now.
Bennett's got a question, it looks like. I think you're unmuted, Bennett. Go ahead and.
Okay. Yeah, so I currently live in Idaho. I'm in Meridian, and I'm kind of wondering, like, how is the traveling and class times going to relate to me being able to get to class on time?
There are some classes at 7:30 in the morning and some classes that can be later in the evening. It's just your flexibility, and the longer you're here, the more opportunity you'll have to customize your schedule around work or research, commuting times. I know we have a lot. We are a commuter campus, so I think we have a significant number of students that are from the Treasure Valley that commute, and so it's kind of whatever works best for you. There's some people that like to get here earlier and morning people, but there's enough variety, I think, in our class schedule to make it work, whether you're talking commute time, work time, whatever that might be.
And I'll add a little bit more on the tail end of that. Bennett, I live in Meridian as well. And yeah, I mean, if you want to get from here to campus at, for an 8 o'clock or an 8:30 start time, you're going to have to add a few minutes to commute depending on your route and where you're exactly, where you're starting from. But it's really, it's a lot more of a perceived issue than it is a real issue as far as timeliness and capability. There's only been a few days that it gets down to the wire, and that's over 6 years.
Okay.
All students have as part of your student, I don't know what you have a free bus pass. So I don't know if that's an option or something that works for you, but that's another commute option that I know people as far out as Canyon County will commute from CWI. And we have students that take classes at both universities, and they're commuting back and forth between College of Western Idaho and Boise State, and using that free public transportation system is another option.
Okay.
So we had a couple questions come in from Daniel. So Daniel's asking, are the engineering grads typically able to find jobs after graduation? And then what services does Boise State have with job placement? So Don, do you want to answer that, or do you want?
No, that's fine. I'll go ahead. So Daniel, good question. Wonderful question, and certainly relevant. If you're going to get an engineering degree, you want to go through that work to get an engineering degree. You kind of want to have a job at the end, right? So, so we kind of have a bunch of, we have a variety of I guess, different ways to answer the question. Certainly, I would say I don't have the numbers in front of me, right in front of me, that in terms of like the 6 months after graduation, this many have jobs, but it's a pretty high percentage, I would say. And the other thing is that they're going all over the country. It's not like that they don't, some of them do stay in Idaho. A lot of people want to stay in Idaho, but a lot of people go around to all over the country. I have people at Boeing, Lockheed Martin, several different NASA facilities. Excuse me. We have people in the automotive industry at Chrysler and GM out in the Midwest. And so we have, and several other, I know there's some people in agribusiness that have stayed in Idaho, but also agribusiness in other areas around the country, and also obviously high-tech areas as well. So Hewlett Packard and Yvette could speak to that a little bit, and some of the local industries here in Idaho. And so it's kind of hit or miss in terms of where, depending on where you want to go and what you want to do. There's not as much aerospace industry in, say, Boise proper. There's a few places that you can get a job there, but if you want to go aerospace, you generally have to go to Seattle or maybe somewhere in Southern California or Denver or something like that. Do you have any specific interests in particular jobs? I see you have another question there. Maybe I can speak to that one.
I unmuted you, Daniel.
Okay. I'm honestly curious about like transportation things. I'd love to work on like cars or bikes or something after I graduate.
Ah, okay. Cars or bikes. Well, in terms of cars, obviously, we have the GM and the Chrysler connection. Actually, I might even ask Sarah Haight, one of our professors. She's actually had some experience at Chrysler, and also she worked at Motive Power, which is they do it's transportation, but it's large scale transportation. So Sarah, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah. So I was just unmuting. So I got when I graduated with my undergraduate. So I did my undergraduate degree at Boise State as well. When I graduated, I actually got a job out at Chrysler, and I was in a rotational program out there where we did lots of different types of work. And really that job was facilitated through, I did student clubs, and one of the student clubs that I was in just happened to be the Society of Women Engineers, and there was a job fair, and I went out to that job fair and I made a connection. But I also made great connections through ASME, which was another big one that I participated in. And so I went out there and I worked at Chrysler for a couple years, and then wanted to come back to Boise, came back and worked at Motive Power, which is actually where I met Yvette. And we did heavy rail locomotives. So worked on the design team for that, and then did some operational work for them, and then moved to Recluse Motorsports, where I did motorcycles. So we did aftermarket clutches for motorcycles, which is, I don't know what you meant when you said bikes, but they're in Boise, and you could have met pedal bikes or motorbikes, but it was a motorbike company, and it was really fun to be there. I did operational work and engineering for them. And then I did a short stint with robotics. So I did some robotics work with another local company. So really it just depends on, exactly kind of what Don was saying, where your interests lie, And then in terms of when you're in school, obviously your GPA is important, but the important thing, and what we try to really emphasize, is it's learning the content and understanding what being an engineer is, and understanding how to apply the principles of engineering. And the faculty really understands that. And so we encourage you to do things that are not only in the curriculum, right, but are student clubs. So ASME, I helped did the mini Baja team, right? And that helped me understand a lot of automotive things that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't do that, right? So there's a lot of support from all the faculty and fellow students to, go out and do what you want to do and be who you want to be. And so it's a really great place to facilitate that. And there's lots of jobs available, but just like Dawn said, they could be, it might not be in Boise if it's something that we don't have here. So it's a great place to learn all those things for sure.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So we had another question on how hard is it to find international engineering offers? And so I'll answer partially, but then I don't know if anybody else has any experience with this as well. But I just wanted to shed some light on international engineering offers. If you work for a company such as Hewlett Packard, or even I worked at Lockheed, had I stayed at Lockheed, it's likely that I would have had opportunities to go to Japan, Taiwan, or Italy. I have several friends living in Taiwan and Italy working on the F-35 that just got transferred, and they get these rotations off to these various countries. A good friend of mine is now on his second rotation. He had 5 years in Japan, and then now he went 5 years to Italy. So I know that you can apply for those particular companies in the United States, but then get transferred overseas. Does anybody else have any experience as far as applying for international engineering opportunities overseas? Catlin, possibly?
I've worked a lot in international business in the engineering work that I did. I have not worked in those programs. I've known several students that have. There are internship abilities, and there are companies that are looking, the GREEN program is an international program. International work, there's definitely a lot out there and a lot of people looking. It has very much to do with your ability to network and your ability to dig up those opportunities for summer and for spring break opportunities and so forth, and trying to get those connections internationally. And the international program at Boise State works with several professors to make sure that, for example, I've had several students come into senior design who, one went to the engineering university in Munich, and the international program at Boise State works very well with our faculty to align the programs offered internationally back to the Boise State program so that you can go do a semester abroad. And those would be excellent opportunities if you have a particular interest.
This is Lynn. I was just going to say there are a multitude of opportunities for students to get international experience before graduating. So I think if you're interested in working abroad, look into things like our Global Engineering Exchange Program. Boise State is one of, I want to say, only 40 universities in the United States that's part of the GE3. It's a global engineering education exchange that provides students the opportunity to study at other universities and to study engineering. So I know of students that have gone to Germany to get experience at BMW in Germany. Another student who went to Australia to get a lot more experience with some of their renewable energy technologies that they have down there. So just a multitude of opportunities. Germany has some summer undergraduate internships and research opportunities that are out there for students. So whether it's taking a semester abroad or looking at those summer opportunities, I feel like that's getting that international experience as an undergrad is going to be most beneficial to then making that leap to if you want to have a leg up for those jobs after you graduate.
Any other questions?
So I saw on the College of Engineering that they have a bunch of scholarships that are available on the Boise State Scholarships website. And I was just curious, I guess, how those are awarded.
There's a scholarship committee that meets, that awards some of the university and the college scholarships. And then there's some departmental scholarships that the mechanical engineering department awards. And I think for this year, those have pretty much been awarded. But each year there's a general scholarship application. All students every year, regardless of your financial status, you want to make sure you fill out the FAFSA, you fill out the main Boise State scholarship application, make sure that you get your FAFSA connected, because some opportunities are based on financial need, some are based on merit. So you just want to, that's something you have to do every year, I think, at most universities. But what's nice at Boise State is there's, for our scholarships, just one application.
Feel free to ask anything, guys. I mean, I understand that there's, ladies too, that, you know, this is hard and confusing. If we don't know the answer, we will find someone that does. And we're here to help you. So feel free to keep asking questions. If you didn't want to ask, feel free to email us. Is there any closing thoughts or any additional thoughts from any of the staff?
I would say, like anywhere that you go to, or any endeavor that you do, the more that you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. There's been, if you think about several of the things that Dawn and Gus, Sarah, myself, Lynn have talked about, what Courtney talked about, the more you look and actively engage in different parts of your university experience, the more rich your outcome will be, both for job opportunities, worldwide travel, whether you work internationally or not, your enriched personal life. I know just having been at Boise State and working with other people throughout the Treasure Valley, the more I put into my community involvement at Boise State, the better enriched I am throughout the Valley and through my personal life. So in a student sense, it works the same way.
It looks like Bennett might have a question.
Yeah, so I'm going to be graduating Mountain View High School with 8 credits towards a French minor. And I was wondering, how do I go about completing that French minor in college?
So just adding in and filling in those additional, it's probably going to be about 15 more credits as my guesstimate. If you want to continue that French, with what you have already, you have probably an elementary certificate in French. And if you want to take a couple more classes without going for the full minor, there's also an opportunity to get an intermediate certificate. So if you want to take 2 more semesters of French, that would be an opportunity as well. The students that I work with who have language minors often will knock off a lot of those credits by studying abroad in that country over a summer or over a semester. And you can, while you're there, find a engineering exchange program in France, get some amazing opportunities to take engineering classes that we might not have at Boise State, as well as earn some of those upper division conversational French courses that you'd still need.
Okay, thank you.
Gus, I see your hands up.
I just wanted to chime in on the international topic, just to say that despite working internationally, like I worked for a company that sold internationally. So I spent 4 months in the UK working one time. I've been to Japan working. I would have gone to Turkey for a number of months before I left. So I think that that's something that if you pick the right industry, and if you pick companies and things like that that work internationally, that's probably I prefer that. So I get to stay in the U.S. and then I get to go and you you live in a hotel over there, but it's okay. It's a little bit like being on vacation. Usually when your company sends you international, you're working a whole lot, but you get your weekends off for the most part. So it's fun, and it's fun being somewhere else without having to actually leave your family for numbers of years at a time and things like that. So
that's a really good point. One of the best trips I ever took in my life was when I had to work in Munich and Stuttgart, which are about 2 hours apart. And Stuttgart's work was at the beginning of 1 week, and my work in Munich was at the end of the other week. So I had like 5 days by myself in Munich, and it was paid for. And it was quite an amazing time.
I'm going to jump in on the international talk too. I ended up going to Sierra Leone for 6 weeks and worked in a remote village right after the Ebola crisis. So mine wasn't nearly as cool as some of these other. Actually, it was really cool. I should say.
You had more adventure than all of us, Don.
It was definitely a unique experience for sure, and I felt like we made it was more of a philanthropic approach. It wasn't centered around a company, and so that's another area that you can get involved in as a student. Internationally, you can get involved in more of the opportunities to Engineers Without Borders. We don't have a specific club like that on campus, but we're working on it. We do have a club that's similar to that is working not just externally to the United States, but also internally to the United States on service projects. And so the idea being that we can engage students in that if that's something that's interesting to you as well.
And one thing, you can always become a professor, come work for us, and then go on sabbatical. We have a professor right now who's in Spain, Don. Prior to this quarantine crisis, was going to Costa Rica for a year.
Still going to Costa Rica next year.
So, all right, guys.
Can I jump in right quick on the last little bit there? As far as the sort of like the big picture remarks, I went. Yvette and I are both from Texas, and so I went to Texas A&M, a very large. Okay, so we need to finish.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was trying to answer to someone.
Okay.
Go ahead, Don.
All right. So sorry. Yeah, I'll be quick though. So big university versus smaller university. And I'm not saying we're small. We're actually grown a lot in recent years, but you definitely still have classes that are delivered by faculty members. And you can go and sit in their office, even the chair. I have students that come and visit me, and we have discussions about career opportunities and things like that. And so you're not coming in here and feeling like a number. You're feeling like a valued part of our culture and our family as a part of our Department of Mechanical and Biomedical Engineering. And so when you come here, you're joining that group. And when you leave and you're 5 or 6 years out after school, you can come back. And I have people coming back to me all the time and telling me all the great things that they're doing. They help with internships for new students coming in, but they also maybe say, hey, can you write me a reference letter? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can I come back for grad school? There's lots of these connections that you build, and you have these personal connections at a university like this. And we really pride ourselves on building those relationships. And part of that's the student experience that you come into. You're going to come in, you're going to be expected to go into this innovation studio. You're going to be expected to build things and have, try and see if it works and see if it, do something different. So it's part of the experience that you have as a student for the 4 years that you're going to be here. Lastly, I wanted to leave with the thought that we are in unique times. We're not normally doing this online. We're doing this in person. And I just want to leave everybody with this. We are going to be teaching classes in the fall, and we are going to be ready to deliver them online if necessary, or if we're going to have to, if we can do them in person, we'll be there too. And we're going to be good, and we're going to be really, really well, finely tuned at delivering those classes across the board in any case. And so I'm not worried at all. I encourage you to get excited about this time in your lives and be ready to come to college and make it a wonderful experience. So. And I would second, if you have any questions for me or anybody else, please reach out.